We've got some Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power news. We've got a new rumor that claims that Galadriel's husband, Celeborn, is going to appear in Season 2. If you're getting your hopes up, you shouldn't be, because they absolutely destroyed his character, even though he wasn't even present in Season 1, by completely erasing him from the show and Tolkien's lore. They didn't follow it whatsoever, so you just know it's already going to be a disaster. But let's just get to the rumor first, and then we'll kind of talk about how that this casting, his inclusion, does nothing to improve this series whatsoever. So this came from Twitter user Fellowship Fans. They wrote, exclusive, Calum Lynch will play Celeborn in The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2. There's a picture of him there. Calum, I don't know how to say it. Callum, maybe it's Callum. They then revealed how the character will be depicted. Exclusive, Celeborn will be in silver, dark blue, and gold costumes in The Rings of Power Season 2. I don't know. I guess there's like a sketch from someone, like, based off of what they heard about, maybe, is what I'm thinking. Even though that doesn't really look like Lynch, whatever. It looks more like the guy who played him in Peter Jackson's films, whose name escapes me right now. But let's get into Celeborn and the Rings of Power. So if you recall, or if you didn't see it, well, I'll let you know. But in the first season of the show, Galadriel tells Theo that Celeborn is dead. In the show's 7th episode, Theo asks, have you lost someone close to them? He says to them, but it's to the orcs. Because this is right after Mount Doom explodes and creates Mordor, which is anathema. Mordor was created in the first age, but they changed that because they are writing the book that Tolkien never wrote, right? Galadriel responds, my brother Finrod and my husband. So she's literally saying that she lost her husband to the orcs. And then Theo questions, husband? Galadriel responds, Celeborn was his name. We met in a glade of flowers. I was dancing and he saw me there. Theo then kind of interjects a little bit before Galadriel continues, basically pretty much ignoring him. But she says, the war seemed so very far away then. When he went to it, I chided him. His armor didn't fit properly. Called him a silver clam. Never saw him again after that. I mean, are you kidding me? Galadriel calling Celeborn a silver clam because he's in armor? This is absolutely cringe. But this was Rings of Power to a T. So Galadriel thinks he's dead. And she's flirting the entire season with Sauron, which is just disgusting. Because Sauron even recognizes her as basically the main person that could oppose her or oppose him from manipulating the elves. Even riles up a coup to drive her out of Eregion. So let's talk about what Tolkien actually envisioned. So the entire first season was contrary to how author J.R.R. Tolkien depicts the relationship between Celeborn and Galadriel. Celeborn is clearly not dead as he survives into the Third Age, where he greets the Fellowship of the Ring alongside Galadriel and Lothlorien. You know, in the films, even if you haven't read the books, you see him in the films next to her. There he is right there. Greeting the Fellowship. There's a screenshot. We see off screen he would lead the forces in the books, and we don't really see it in any of the movies, but he would lead the forces of the Galadriel against Dol Guldur and eventually took the fortress. He would go on to claim southern Mirkwood as East Lorien. He also attended the wedding of his granddaughter Arwen to Aragorn. Celeborn eventually sailed west on the last ship with Círdan the Shipwright. So he's clearly alive. He's not dead. He survives into the Fourth Age. And then the idea that Galadriel would even think Celeborn is dead is preposterous. In Unfinished Tales, The Lost Lore of Middle-earth by J.R.R. Tolkien and edited by Tolkien's son Christopher Tolkien, it's revealed that Galadriel and Celeborn are run out of Eregion after Sauron manipulated the elven smiths against them. It even notes that Celeborn and Galadriel founded Eregion. Tolkien detailed that Sauron, quote, perceived at once that Galadriel would be his chief adversary and obstacle, and he endeavored, therefore, to placate her, bearing her scorn with outward patience and courtesy. So Sauron recognizes that she is one of his main opponents to corrupting the elves and doing his dirty deeds with them. He set about manipulating a group of elven smiths known as, I'm going to terribly butcher this name, Gwaith y Myrdain, and eventually convinced them to, quote, revolt against Galadriel and Celeborn and to seize power in Eregion. And that was at some time between 1350 and 1400 of the Second Age. After being run out of Eregion, Tolkien explains that, quote, Galadriel thereupon left Eregion and passed through Khazad-dûm to Lornen, taking with her Amroth and Celebrian, who is Celeborn and Galadriel's daughter. That's not referenced at all. But Celeborn would not enter the mansions of the dwarves, and he remained behind in Eregion, disregarded by Celebrimbor. So basically, the political coup worked, and he has no influence anymore there in region. Celebrimbor is basically now at the whims of Anatar, the giver of gifts, aka Sauron. Tolkien then adds, in Lorinad, Galadriel took up rule and defense against Sauron. So there is some time where they're split apart, but there isn't really a time where Galadriel thinks that Celeborn is dead, and we know this because after receiving one of the 3 rings of the elves, Nenya, the ring begins to influence her, Galadriel, and increases her desire for the sea. She eventually leaves Lorinad alongside her and Celeborn's daughter, Celebrium. They depart to Imladris or Rivendell and discover Celeborn there. Tolkien wrote, in his concluding passage, the narrative returns to Galadriel, telling that the sea longing grew so strong in her that though she deemed it her duty to remain in Middle-earth while Sauron was still unconquered, she determined to leave Lorinad and to dwell near the sea. She committed Lorinad to Amroth, and passing again through Moria with Celebrion, she came to Imladris, seeking Celeborn. There, it seems, she found him, and there they dwelt together for a long time, and it was then that Elrond first saw Celebrion and loved her, though he said nothing of it. Tolkien continued saying, but at some later time, there is no indication of the date. Galadriel and Celeborn, together with Celebrion, departed from Imladris and went to the little inhabited lands between the mouth of the Gwathlo and Ithir Anduin. There they dwelt in Belfalas, at the place that was afterwards called Dol Amroth. There Amroth, their son, at times visited them, and their company was swelled by Nandorian elves from Lorinad. It was not until far on in the Third Age, when Amroth was lost and Lorinad was in peril, that Galadriel returned there in the year 1981. So there you have it. She does not think that he's dead. She actually goes to seek him out, and Imladris finds him. They go to Dol Amroth, spend time there. Once Amroth has passed away, they return to Lorinad and take up rule there in Lothlorien, where they greet the Fellowship. So no matter how they choose to include Celeborn in this upcoming season, it will not be what Tolkien wrote or in any way accurately depict Celeborn's story. It's just impossible when they've already said that he's dead. Galadriel thinks he's dead. She's been flirting with Sauron throughout the entire first season. And now all of a sudden, they're going to introduce the husband that she thinks is dead, as well as the daughter that she doesn't even know she has. No, it's not going to work. It's clearly not going to be Tolkien, and it's going to suck. And no matter what these people try and tell you, it's not going to be canonical, because they've already tried to tell you that this second season is going to be canonical. The showrunner, Patrick McKay, told Variety this, or he told the Hollywood Reporter, season 2 has a canonical story. That's what he's claiming. No, it doesn't. It can't. It cannot have a canonical story after what you showed us in season 1, which wasn't canonical. You didn't even get the creation of the Rings of Power correct. You're not going to be giving us a canonical story in season 2. There's just no way. He goes on and says, there may well be viewers who are like, this is the story we were hoping to get in season 1. In season 2, we're giving it to them. Too bad you lost everyone if that's actually what you were trying to do in the first place. If we're actually very charitable at what you're saying, you should have done that in the first season in the first place. But I'm a skeptic. I don't think he's telling the truth here. This is the guy that says, back to the book, back to the book, back to the book. You never went back to the book. You lied to people's faces. They saw that you lied. And you're doing it again. That's what it looks like to me. So it doesn't matter that Celeborn is returning or is showing up in this season, because they've already ruined it. They've already ruined it.